Hi guys. Welcome to the dev server 1.77. Today we will be mainly looking at the new planes and tanks and gun sounds. However, I will not go over the Dagor 5-point graphic changes. There are dev blogs that talk about it. Link in the description. Some quick items before we start. The dev server review is split up into planes, tanks, and new gun sounds. The timestamps below can quickly allow you to get to the place you want, like planes or tanks. Note the battle ratings or stats on the stat cards are not set in stone. They may be different when the update comes. Also, the stat card now shows the flag of the nation of the tank or plane. Finally, the graphics and sounds for tanks have been completely reworked in this update. Now, it is time to start the review. Grab a snack and enjoy. Let's start off with the US. The US gets one new jet, the F-84G. The F-84G has a BR of 7.7 and sits in a folder behind the F-84B. It is identical with the Italian F-84G in terms of loadouts and weapons. The payload makes it very good in assisting US tanks in ground RB. The armor is not bad. It is enough to stop high explosive shells, but watch out for 50 cals. It serves a very good plane for the Americans. Next, we move on to Germany. What is update 1.77 without the HE-177? This German heavy bomber sits at the BR of 5.3 and sits behind the Dornier 217s. It has a very nice and special camouflage. The armor is only good enough to stop rifle caliber bullets and high explosives. However, it cannot stop the deadly 50 cals at this tier. So watch out if you are facing any American fighters. The stock payload is surprisingly good. It is enough to knock out 2 bases. The other payloads like the 4-1000s is good to take out tank columns. Gaijin also added the 1800 kg bomb known as Satan. This is very powerful in both air RB and ground RB. The main payload is very good for taking out bases or airfields. Fly with a few friends and you could end the match very early. Loadout APT for the 7.92, stock for the 13mm, and air targets for the 20mm for the best defense against fighters. The HE-177 has large fuel tanks that can easily be set on fire. Watch out. Use your 13mm and 20mm for the best defense. A few well-placed 20mm can stop a fighter attack. Overall, if you use the HE-177 correctly, it can be very powerful in ground RB or air RB. Next, onto the USSR. The USSR gets one jet, the LA-200. It has 2 VK-1 jets in the fuselage. This makes the jet very quick. This jet is very deadly with 3 37mm cannons. However, each gun has only 50 shells. Make sure you aim well. Keep your plane safe as this jet has no armor. Overall, this makes a fantastic addition to the Russian tree. Italy now gets a long-awaited plane, the RE-2000. This plane is quick and nimble, and has 2 50 cals. The breeder machine guns make this plane deadly in tier 1 battles. The plane has a very nice looking camouflage. This makes a great addition to the Italian tree and the start of the Region line. Italy gets a surprising new premium aircraft, the Spitfire Mark V Trop. The Spitfire is a carbon copy of the one in the British tree, but it has a nice camo with a cat decal. This plane would make a very fine grinder for tiers 3 and 4. The firepower is not bad. However, this does not carry any bombs or rockets. Overall, a fine addition to the Italian tree. In update 1.77, the Spitfire Mark 5s have their textures reworked. The British also get 2 new Spitfires, the Mark 5B and Mark 5C. The current Mark 5C is being renamed to Mark 5C Trop. The new Mark 5B Spitfire has a normal RAF camo. The plane is very similar to the Mark 5B Trop, but it has no tropical filter, which decreases drag. The armor and weapons are still the same on the Mark 5B Trop. The old Mark 5C is renamed to Mark 5C Trop. The texture of the aircraft has been changed to make it look better. However, it has no other changes. The new Mark 5C is the highest out of the Mark 5s with a BR of 4.7. This plane is just like the Mark 5C in terms of armament, but it has no tropical filter. This makes a great fighter for the British 3. The MB-5 is a Tier 4 bundle British plane. This plane is powered by the famous Rolls-Royce Griffon engine. This is a good superprop prototype that people can fly to make grinding jets quicker and easier. It is armed with the powerful Hispano Mark 5 cannons. This is useful for any person wanting a good grinder of jets. France gets a new Tier 1 bomber, the Martin 167. This plane is a good bomber with 4 machine guns and up to 2,000 kilograms of bombs. However, it only has one 7.7mm machine gun, so it really can't defend itself with the turret. The 4 Browning machine guns make a way to attack light targets. This is a fine addition as a light bomber for the French. France also gets the Yak-3 flown by the Normandy Neiman pilots to France. It is just like the Russian Yak-3, however, it gets a special French camo with the Cross of Lorraine and the tricolor spinner. This is a good premium for anyone grinding Tier 4 of the French air tree. France finally gets the MD-452 Mystérique, their first 9.0 fighter. This plane is armed with 2 powerful DEFA cannon. This plane is for anyone who wants a top tier jet with good characteristics in combat. It also makes a good ground striker and ground RB with the option to carry 2 bombs or 38 rockets. This is a great engine fighter for the French Air Force. The US now gets the famous M1 Abrams. This tank on the outside has weak armor. Do not be deceived. It has very good composite armor that can stop a PDSFS or heat shell. Inside the tank, the ammo racks and fuel tanks are protected by internal armor, which help increase the survivability of the tank. The chopper armor of the M1 is very good. It is able to stop 380mm of pen from kinetic rounds and 630mm of pen from chemical rounds. This makes the tank hard to kill on the front. The side armor is thinner, but still stops 250mm of pen from kinetic rounds and 300mm of pen from chemical rounds. The ammo is not bad on the M1. It gets the M733 stock with 360mm maximum pen. The best shell, M774, can pen up to 415mm of armor. This makes the M1 a powerful killing machine. The Magach 3 is a tier 5 American premium base to the M48 and M60 tanks. This tank is a good tier 5 premium to grind out tier 6 tanks quickly. It has so-so armor at its tier. A good thing is this does not have the large commander's cupola. The shells on the Magach is good. The apps can pen up to 305mm of armor and the heat shell can pen up to 400mm. A good tank for anyone who wants a nice premium tank for the Americans. The T-64B is an upgrade to the T-64A in the game. The frontal armor has increased with the turret armor also being stronger. It has okay side armor, but that usually does not save you. The back armor is thin with around 45mm of protection. The main protection on this tank is in the composite armor. The upper front plate can stop 480mm in both kinetic and chemical rounds. The turret can do okay protection with 400mm of pen from kinetic shells and 450mm of pen from chemical shells. This makes the tank quite a hard nut to crack. The T-64's main APDSFS can pen up to 475mm of armor. This can go through a lot of tanks through the front in the game. Another thing the T-64 can do is fire 8 EGMs from the main barrel. The ammo selection makes the T-64B quite powerful. Germany gets the Leopard 2K. The Leo 2K has weak frontal armor, so use speed and stealth as your main protection. If you play recklessly, you will quickly die, as the armor is too thin for a tier 6 tank. The spaced armor can offer some protection, but it is mainly to stop atoms and heat shells. Do not count on the spaced armor too much. However, the Leo 2K has a very good gun. The best APDSFS on the Leo 2K can pen up to 410mm of armor and the heat shell can pen up to 650mm. Use the 120mm gun to your advantage. Britain gets the Challenger 1. This tank, like the M1, uses chopper armor. The frontal plates of this tank are quite thin. The side armor of the tank is very thin. However, the chopper armor makes up for it. The upper front plate can stop 400mm of kinetic pen and 600mm of chemical pen. The turret armor stops 400mm of kinetic pen and 650mm of chemical pen. This makes the Challenger quite hard to break. Protect your fuel tanks on the side. A well-placed shot can set on fire the fuel tanks. The L11 cannon is very good on the Challenger. The top APDSFS can pen up to 410mm, while the Hesh pens 153mm of armor. France gets a new premium, the AMX-30. This tank has poor armor protection for a tier 5 tank. Use stealth and speed as your armor, because your armor will not stop shells at this tier. The side and rear plates are also very thin plates. The tank does offer a okay heat shell life top pen of 360mm. This tank will require skill to play it correctly. The AMX-30B2 is like its predecessor, the AMX-30, 1972. The tank has weak armor for a tier 6 tank. However, it has ERA, which can greatly stop heat or ATGMs. Play carefully with the AMX-30B2. The side and rear plates are also very thin plates. The tank does have an okay APDSFS shell with up to 348mm of pen. This tank is okay for France for top tier.
Nächstes Ziel. Wer hat gesessen? Feind zerstört.